Okay, think about this. A global market hitting USD 524.5 million just for 2025. We're talking about surgical procedures worldwide. It's like this huge economy driven entirely by our health needs.
It really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? The sheer scale of surgical intervention globally. Those numbers are quite something.
They really are. And today, we're diving into a market research report that basically maps all this out, where things stand now and where they're headed. Our mission really is to pull out the crucial stuff for you. Understand the landscape, the future trends, maybe some surprising growth spots, key regional differences, but without drowning you in data.
Exactly. We want to connect the dots, highlight the major forces shaping this vital part of healthcare, give you the key takeaways.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture. Globally, 2025, it's that USD 524.5 million figure. But the really interesting part, projections push that up to USD 200.29 million by 2033. That's a serious jump.
It is. It really reflects the increasing demand we're seeing pretty much everywhere for surgical treatments.
And the momentum, it's captured by this compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of 5.00% from 2025 to 2033.
Right.
Now, CAGR isn't just a simple average, right? It's more like the steady year-on-year growth if you smooth things out.
That's a good way to put it. It shows this isn't just a temporary surge, it's sustained expansion.
So what's fueling this?
Well, it seems to be driven mainly by two big global health trends. First, the increasing prevalence of chronic diseases worldwide, and second, the fact that the global population is aging quite significantly.
Right. Both of those naturally lead to more need for surgery.
Precisely.
Okay, let's break it down by region then. Who are the main players? North America takes the biggest slice, doesn't it?
It does. Over 37% of the global market. That's about USD 304.07 million for 2025.
But their growth rate, the CAGR, is projected at 3.5%. A bit more moderate compared to the global average.
Yes, exactly. North America has a very well-established healthcare system, advanced tech adoption, so its large share makes sense. The somewhat low growth rate probably indicates a market that's already quite mature, quite developed.
And within North America, the U.S. is obviously the giant. USD 128.91 million market, 3.3% CAGR. What's the story there?
A big factor in the U.S. is the heavy use of advanced robotic surgery, and also a real preference for minimally invasive techniques whenever possible.
Ah, okay, so technology adoption is key.
Definitely. It influences the number of procedures, patient outcomes, and costs, too.
What about Canada? Smaller market, USD 156.49 million, but a slightly higher CAGR at 4.3%. Why the difference?
Canada's growth seems more linked to its aging population. That demographic shift naturally drives demand for procedures like cardiovascular and orthopedic surgeries. Plus, their universal healthcare system plays a role in accessibility.
In Mexico, around USD 118.67 million, 4.0% CAGR, so still solid growth.
Yes. Looking at North America overall, the big takeaway really is the impact of robotic surgery adoption. It's reshaping things across the continent.
Okay, let's hop over to Europe. Still the huge chunk of the market, right? Over 29%.
Absolutely. USD 1,022.11 million in 2025 with a CGR of 4.1%. So substantial size and pretty steady growth.
Seems logical, given Europe's developed healthcare system.
Right, and there's generally strong government support for medical research and innovation, too, which helps maintain that position.
Looking at specific countries,
Yeah.
the UK is interesting. USD $171.71 million market, but a 4.9% CAGR. That's higher than the European average.
Yeah, the UK's growth appears fueled by a couple of things. A definite trend towards outpatient procedures, patients going home the same day, and also just a general rise in elective surgeries, plus ongoing investment from the NHS in new surgical tech.
Germany's next. USD 202.38 million, 4.3% CAGR. Strong system, strong growth.
Yes, Germany spends a lot on healthcare per capita, and there's high demand for advanced procedures, including robotics and minimally invasive options. That supports the numbers.
Then you have France, Italy, Russia, Spain. Their market sizes vary, sort of USD 80 to 160 million range, and their CGRs are mostly between 3.1% and 3.5%. Does that suggest more stability?
It likely reflects the maturity of their healthcare systems, perhaps slightly more moderate demographic shifts compared to, say, the UK or some other areas.
But then, some smaller European countries show faster growth, like Luxembourg at 4.4%, Sweden 4.2%, Denmark 3.9%, even Switzerland at 3.7%. What's going on there?
That's interesting. Those higher CGRs in smaller nations might point to maybe focused investment in specific surgical fields or perhaps faster adoption of the newest technologies within their more nimble systems.
And the report mentions government support for surgical tech across Europe being important.
Yes, definitely. Many European governments are actively pushing for things like minimally invasive techniques, AI in diagnostics, robot-assisted surgery. They're aiming to improve patient outcomes, shorten hospital stays. Things like research funding and digital health initiatives are really playing a part.
Okay, now, the region that seems to be generating the most excitement growth-wise, Asia-Pacific or APAC. Around 24% market share, USD 845.88 million in 2025, but the CAGR, a whopping 7.7%.
Wow, yeah, that's significant. It makes APAC the fastest growing region globally for surgical procedures. There's really a mix of factors driving that boom.
China's leading the pack in APAC. USD 355.27 million market, 7.2% CAGR. Already huge and still growing fast.
Exactly. China's enormous population, rising chronic diseases, rapid urbanization, changing lifestyles and health patterns, plus improving access to healthcare services. It's all feeding into that growth.
But India's growth rate is even more striking, 9.6% CAGR on a USD 84.59 million market. What's behind that incredible number?
India's phenomenal rate is fueled by a big jump in demand for orthopedic and cosmetic surgeries specifically. Plus, there's growing investment in private hospitals and a really thriving medical tourism sector attracting patients looking for affordable options.
Makes sense. Japan and South Korea also show strong growth, 6.2% and 6.8% CAGRs, market sizes over USD 100 million. So solid growth in developed Asian economies too.
Right. These nations are seeing more demand partly due to their aging populations, like elsewhere, but also continuous tech advancements.
In Singapore, highest CAGR in the region at 8.0%, though from a smaller base, USD 16.92 million. Taiwan, Southeast Asia, also showing really robust growth, like 7.5% to 8.5%. It seems the whole region is just expanding rapidly.
It really is. These growth rates across APAC aren't just numbers. They signal a real dynamism. It's driven by rising incomes, greater health awareness, expanding infrastructure, and medical tourism is a big factor too for places like Singapore, Thailand, India. That's 7.7% overall APAC growth. It could mean we see new centers of medical excellence emerging outside the traditional Western hubs.
Okay, moving to South America. They hold over 4% of the market, USD 133.93 million in 2025, and a 5.7% CAGR. So steady growth there too.
Yes, South America is definitely seeing more investment in surgical capabilities. Both governments and private providers are adopting more advanced techniques.
Brazil's the largest player, USD 57.32 million, 6.3% CAGR. The report links this to ASC growth, those ambulatory surgery centers, and cosmetic surgery demand.
That's right. These outpatient centers are often more convenient, sometimes more cost-effective. That, plus the high interest in cosmetic procedures, really boosts Brazil's market.
Argentina also shows strong growth, 6.6% CAGR, USD 22.50 million market, especially in plastic surgery.
Yeah, Argentina has a strong reputation and a lot of expertise in plastic surgery. That's a key driver for its higher growth rate within the region.
What about the Middle East? Also around 4% market share, USD 140.98 million, but a 6.3% CAGR. That's faster than North America and Europe. Why?
The growth in the Middle East seems influenced by a couple of things. Rising demand for surgeries related to trauma and infectious diseases, but also significant investments in medical tourism, especially in places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and general healthcare infrastructure development.
Turkey and Qatar have KGRs around 6-7%. Turkey's highlighted as a medical tourism hub, so accessibility and cost are probably big factors.
Absolutely. Turkey offers high-quality care, particularly in areas like bariatric and cosmetic surgery, often at more competitive prices. That attracts international patients. Qatar's growth is boosted by its investment in top-notch facilities and, unfortunately, a need for trauma surgery services.
And finally, Africa. About 2.2% of the global market, USD 77.54 million, 5.3% CAGR. Smaller base, but still positive movement.
Yes, while the market share is smaller now, Africa has huge growth potential as infrastructure improves and the population ages.
South Africa leads there, 6.2% CAGR, USD 27.29 million our outer market, driven by aging and private healthcare growth.
Correct. More age-related conditions plus the expansion of private facilities are key drivers in South Africa.
Nigeria also showing decent growth, 5.5%.
In Nigeria, factors include foreign investment coming into healthcare and the ongoing need for surgeries linked to infectious diseases and trauma.
Okay, so that's the geographical picture. Now let's focus on what types of surgeries are really moving the needle. The report flags cardiovascular procedures as likely dominant, which, given heart disease rates in aging populations, isn't too surprising.
No, not at all. Procedures like angioplasty, bypass surgery, valve replacements, they're consistently in high demand globally. Think conditions like heart failure, coronary artery disease, very widespread. Plus, advances in minimally invasive techniques are making these procedures safer, potentially boosting volumes.
But here's something really interesting. Neurosurgery procedures are tagged as the fastest growing segment. Why such rapid growth there?
There are a few reasons. We're seeing a rise in neurological disorders generally. Also, the prevalence of traumatic brain injuries is a factor. And then there are age-related conditions like Parkinson's or brain tumors becoming more common as populations age. On top of that, like robotically assisted and less invasive neurosurgery techniques are improving precision and outcomes, making surgery a better option for more people.
Makes sense. And where are these surgeries happening? Hospitals still hold the biggest share, especially for the complex stuff, right?
Oh, yes. Hospitals remain the main place for complex, high-risk surgeries, neurosurgery, major orthopedic work, cancer surgeries, cardiovascular, and they're constantly investing in the latest tech, robotic platforms, AI diagnostics, you name it.
But the report really highlights the rapid expansion of ambulatory surgery centers, ASCs. What's making them take off?
Several things. ASCs often offer more affordable options compared to hospitals for certain procedures. They can be more convenient for patients, too. And recovery times for outpatient procedures done there are often faster. This is especially true for things like ophthalmology, some orthopedics, and as minimally invasive techniques get better, more and more procedures can be safely done in these outpatient settings.
Right. And given the cost pressures we talked about, it makes sense that ASCs are becoming strong competitors.
Exactly.
So let's quickly recap the main market drivers. We've got innovations like minimally invasive and robotic surgery, better access through more hospitals and surgical centers opening up, and this growing trend of medical tourism.
Those are the key accelerators, definitely, driving both the number of procedures and the overall market value.
And on the flip side, the restraints or challenges. High costs are a big one.
A major one.
Yeah.
Affordability is a huge barrier for many people worldwide, limiting access.
And also a shortage of qualified surgeons in some places.
Yes, that's another significant hurdle. Not enough skilled surgeons can really restrict the availability of essential procedures in certain regions.
Looking ahead then, key trends to watch. The continued growth of ASCs seems like a big one,
Absolutely.
and the increasing adoption of minimally invasive surgery across the board.
Those two trends are very likely to shape the market's future. There's a real push towards efficiency, cost effectiveness, and just a better patient experience through less invasive methods.
And when we think about the players involved, it's a mix, isn't it? Healthcare providers, the device makers, hospitals, ASCs, all competing.
It's a very diverse ecosystem. And success seems to hinge on cost effectiveness, good patient outcomes, and having modern surgical capabilities.
You see the big medical tech companies, Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, Stryker, Abbott, really pushing innovation, especially in robotics and tools.
They are definitely at the forefront, but you also have newer companies emerging, often focused on making things more accessible or affordable. The whole competitive landscape is really being shaped by this growing need for specialized treatments, but also for more outpatient options.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together. The global surgical procedures market, huge in 2025, set for significant growth. We've seen fascinating regional differences, particularly that rapid expansion in Asia-Pacific. Cardiovascular procedures dominate now, but neurosurgery is growing fastest. And ASCs are really disrupting the traditional hospital model for certain procedures.
That sums it up well.
Key drivers are tech, aging populations, chronic disease. Key challenges are cost and surgeon shortages.
You've got it. It's a picture of a very dynamic market, constantly evolving due to demographics, technology, and economics.
So here's something to chew on as we wrap up. With all this projected growth, these regional variations, these drivers and challenges, what are the long-term implications for things like fair access to healthcare globally, or the affordability of surgery? And how might medical professionals need to specialize differently depending on where they are in the world?
And maybe what kind of new innovations could emerge to tackle those cost and access barriers? Could technology overcome those restraints?
Exactly. Lots to think about there. There's a ton of detail in the trends and stats we touched on. Definitely worth exploring further if this sparked your interest.